Good morning. Hey, Shari. It was great to see you last night. I have some post-election thoughts to share with you. As soon as everybody comes in here. So grateful for everybody. Oh, wow. There's a lot of you on right now. Okay. So I wanted to share with you what an amazing journey it has been. And I am so deeply grateful for everyone's support. I mean, what we've been able to do in the past couple years is nothing less than restoring hope to California. And so more than anything, I don't want anybody to lose hope. And last night, I did not prevail in the election. And there were some things that I was thinking about that I wanted to share with you. And it's a deeply personal story about how an election loss resulted in my sobriety almost 20 years ago. So here's the story, if you've never heard it before. This was back in 2004, and many of you know my story about how I lost my daughter and my father within 5 weeks of each other. And right after those losses, I remember, oh, there goes my dog. My dog, and she's barking at the dog across the street. She's so protective of me. That after the loss of my father and my daughter, there was so much pain, just bottomless sadness. I know a lot of you can relate with me because you too, you've lost a loved one. And after that, just having that emotional pain that felt like physical pain, I just remember thinking, I've got to find a way out of this pain. And I was never at a point where I didn't want to take my own life. It wasn't like that. I just didn't want to go on living. The sadness was that bottomless. And so I turned to alcohol. So, and many of you know too, because I've shared my faith journey. I was raised Jewish. I had a bat mitzvah, went to Hebrew school. I love saying this, and the whole 9 yards. And it was shortly after my bat mitzvah that my dad was told by the doctor that he would be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. And I really struggled with the meaning of suffering. And as a teenager, I really wanted to know, why do bad things happen to good people? And I was deeply angry at God as a result. I shook my fist at God and I said, you know what, if you're such a great God, why do you allow suffering? Why do you strike down fathers with incurable diseases during the prime of their lives? And if you're such a great God, why don't you cure him? And so I turned my back on God. And fast forward, almost 20 years, and I'm in my 30s, and I've lost my dad, I've lost my daughter. More than ever, I needed to know what the meaning of suffering was. And I was angry at God. And I will just tell you from my own experience that when you have anger towards anyone, whether it's God or a person, that anger will change you. And it changed me. And I turned to alcohol after losing my daughter and my father. So in 2004, just at the end of my rope, and really just kind of like, you know what? I need to investigate this whole meaning of suffering thing. And, people had told me about Jesus, and I'm like, what do I have to lose? And I wound up walking into a church right after the beginning of January 1st, 2004, and I gave my heart to the Lord. And after that, I remember I knew what I knew I believed, but I wanted to know what I knew I believed. And so I threw myself at Jesus, the Bible, the church. I was at the church every time those church doors were open. I was one of those people. I was also really broken. I was a single mom, just brokenhearted over my divorce. Marriages that suffer the loss of a child have an 80% divorce rate. And my high school sweetheart and I, we didn't make the 20% cut. And so I remember as a new Christian, and again, just reading the New Testament like 3 times in the first 3 months. And again, it was a transformative time, but I was still struggling with alcohol. And that's when I started praying, God, release me. Please release me from these chains of addiction. And I'm going to get really real here. There's going to be some details that are hard to share, but they're so necessary to share because I know it's going to help somebody else. So again, here I am. I'm a new believer and I'm struggling with alcohol, and that's when I finally realized the power of confiding in somebody that I trust, to let them know of my struggle so they could pray with me. That was a big step. And I continued to struggle, and I can remember waking up one morning and finding a vodka bottle that was almost completely finished off, which was not like me at the time to do something like that, and realizing that it was a miracle that I was alive. And I'd like to say that was the moment that I quit alcohol, but it wasn't. And I realized that I didn't have the want to quit. And so that's when my prayers began to change. I'm like, God, give me the want to stop. So this is where elections come in, I promise. I know I teased that in the beginning about elections. And so in 2004, I was working full time. I had my business up and running, Amy Reichert Investigations, and I was hired by a political consultant to do opposition research on a candidate. And if you don't know what opposition research is, it's basically a euphemism for digging up dirt on your opponent. I got paid to do that. It was a really interesting job. And during that time, there were other candidates too that I really believed in. And I said, hey, I want to volunteer for your campaign. So between being paid for one campaign and volunteering on 3 more, I was really busy in 2004. So election night came in 2004. And right before I went to bed, I looked at the results, and all 4 candidates were losing. They were going down in flames. And if you had just asked me earlier that day how they were going to do, I would say they're all going to win, you know? So went to bed. The next morning, I fired up the computer and I looked at the election results. Same result. All 4 candidates had lost. And then here is where what I said next even shocked me. I stared at the results on the screen, seeing how all 4 had lost. And then what came out of my mouth next, I couldn't even believe. I said, I don't want to drink anymore. That's the moment I became sober. Isn't that amazing? You know, I don't know how those 4 candidates would feel that God used their losses for me to have that aha moment of getting sober. But in that very moment, it wasn't like, oh, I'm not going to drink anymore, and then the next day I would drink. No. The day after the election, 2004, God literally took that away from me. And what happened next over the course of the next decade was beautiful. Within 7 months, I found myself being invited on staff, and I wound up taking a role in full-time ministry. And I continued to work at that church as a single mom, and it was my lifeline, my community. And during that whole time, I prayed. I prayed for a Christian man. And you know what? It took a long time, but God finally answered, and he sent me my husband, Christian. I know. It's amazing. And a lot of healing took place during that time. My daughter that I lost, she was a week overdue when she was born. I had a uncomplicated, normal pregnancy. She wasn't supposed to die. She was supposed to be born healthy. What happened to her was an HMO nightmare. They completely failed her, and they failed me. I should have had an emergency C-section 2 hours before she was born. That's when she went into a coma after being in distress. And that hospital was found accountable. After she passed, because my dad had just died 5 weeks before, I couldn't bear the thought of another funeral. I didn't want to accept it. And she'd had 2 autopsies to find out the cause of her death. And again, it was the hospital that was found accountable by the medical board, and also a judge arbitrator too, which is very difficult, by the way, to prove. But we proved it because it was just such horrible, horrible HMO nightmare. So I did opt to have her cremated. And in 2008, right after my 40th birthday, I got to realize my lifelong dream of going to Israel. And a week before we were supposed to leave, and I went with my church at the time, I called up the Israeli consulate in New York. And I asked if I could release my daughter's ashes in the Jordan River. And the Israeli consulate said yes. And so, in a beautiful moment by the Jordan River, surrounded by my friends, I got to release my daughter into the Jordan, the same place that Jesus was baptized. And I can't tell you how powerful that moment was. You can probably relate because you've had moments where you've had a way to tangibly let go and release. I had held on to her ashes for 10 years. When her ashes arrived to me, it was very sad. They arrived in a plastic bag in a plain cardboard box with a zip tie. I remember just horrified that she was presented to me like that. And so to be able to let go, to release in the Jordan River, the moment I let go, and it was the most beautiful thing that happened. She swirled into the Jordan. And it wasn't that long afterwards that I met my husband, and I think that it's all connected. Being able to let go, to let something beautiful in. Yes, beauty from ashes. I'm now in my spot in my walk, everybody, where there's a spot where this beautiful woman right here.
Good morning.
Good morning. She has dog treats for all the neighborhood dogs. It is so sweet. Yes. Thank you. You're a beautiful person.
Have a great day. So
You
are
too.
You. All
Thank
dogs
you.
are good dogs.
Yes.
Dexter, right?
Zia. Zia the wonder dog. And I share all of these stories because we cannot give up hope. I truly have this peace in my heart that God is good. He wants to bless you. He wants to heal you. He wants us to forgive. He wants us to make peace with Him. And that the things that are meant for evil, God can use for our good. And so I share all of this because I didn't get the result I wanted last night. I did not win. I put my whole heart, my mind, my soul into all of it. I left it all on the field. But here's the thing. As much as I wanted the miracle, I also came to a place where I'm like, okay, God, I'm going to trust you no matter what. No matter what. And so I share all of this because I was reading some of the social media comments on some of my other friends' posts, and some people are really discouraged right now. They're saying, I want to leave California. That's it. I'm done. And you know what? If you feel called to leave California, I'm not going to judge you. You got to do what's best for your family. But don't leave because you're discouraged. Just have hope. Seriously, if a person like me can have hope after everything that I've experienced in my life, the loss of my daughter, and then 5 weeks before that, the loss of my dad, who was only 56 years old. I want to share with you. So many of you have seen my younger son. He's 11 years old. And if you quickly do the math, because I'm 54, you know that he is the child of my older years. I had my son Chris 3 weeks after I turned 43. The doctors said I had less than a 5% chance of ever getting pregnant. And we did it. And I remember when I first saw the ultrasound and I saw his little heart beating. And then the doctor said, that his due date was on February 13th, the same day that my daughter had passed away. God had taken the darkest day in my life and He turned it into my blessing and my restoration. No, my son wasn't born on February 13th. He was born the next day, February 14th, Valentine's Day. And I'll tell you what, as he was hugging me last night at Election Central and we didn't get the results that we wanted, I embraced him and I said, honey, I did all of this for you. Thank you. Thank you for being born. You know, the whole reason why I stood up in 2020 is because I saw what the fear campaigns were doing to our kids. How they were locked out of school. How they were being told that if they hugged grandma, they would kill grandma. Because he was born, I stood up. So I want to thank everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This has been the most amazing season of my life. Just a few years ago, I went from just a heart aching to be connected to community and really deep and meaningful friendships. And through this terrible time in history, we have community. And it's been the most fulfilling time of my life. I knew when I decided to run in January, I was like, yes, game on. I could not believe that the lines were redrawn and I had a chance to run against the chief lockdowner, the chief divider. And that's why I know a lot of people wanted me to be meaner during my campaign, but you know what? One of the main reasons I ran was because of the horrific things that my opponent has said. And yes, I'm going to share, I think in the future, a very mean personal message that I got from his wife. I don't follow her on Instagram. Apparently she follows me. And she called me a bad mother for running against her husband. So I have peace. I have peace that I led through this whole thing without selling my soul. And we can all hang our head high. So I just want to thank you. No, we did not get the results that we wanted last night. And I was watching some of the other races nationwide too. And it's with sadness that a lot of people that I thought were going to win didn't win. But my husband was so amazing. He said, honey, this is just the beginning. So I want to thank you again. Thanks for watching so early in the morning. I do my 3-mile walks every day, rain or shine. So I'm out here pounding the pavement. And yeah, no, I would have loved a different result last night. But no regrets. Again, when I first had that chance to run, I was like, yes. And then my second thought was, what if you lose? And then my next thought was, I have nothing to lose. I want to encourage you. Don't be discouraged by last night. If it's ever on your heart that you're like, you know what, I want to run for office, do it. Do it. It's been one of the most transformative seasons of my life for the better. One of the things I'm really, really proud of is with my team is really strong women, my campaign manager, my director of volunteers, my field manager, my director of fundraising, my deputy director of communications. We were all united. We didn't have any division on my campaign team. That doesn't mean that we didn't have, stressful moments. But it was beautiful because we all stayed on mission and we all had each other's back. And I can honestly say that the way that we treated each other with love and respect, that's something to be proud of. So I'm going to take this moment to look through the many comments. Yes, let's celebrate the great humans. Yes, Desmond and Dane White, absolutely. So cool. Robin, thank you so much. I love you and I believe in you. Hey, Kevin. Love you, brother. Absolutely. Friends forever. Thank you for your strength, honesty, and bravery. Thank you, everybody. I'm surrounded by just amazing people. Tim, God bless you too. Thank you. Oh, I like this comment, Edith. I hope your son runs for politics. It would be a perfect storm with all that you said. Let me tell you, the very first time that we had our very first Reopen San Diego rally, he said, Mom, I want to go up there with you when you speak. And I'm like, okay. Well, right before, he said, no, I don't want to do it. So I'm up there speaking, and next thing I know, this little human is rushing by my side. Right? And I look down, and it's my son, and his eyes were wide-eyed. I could tell in that very moment that his destiny was changing, that at that moment he believed anything was possible. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Misha. You're saying you're an amazing mother for standing up for the truth and showing your son to fight. Yours, hero. Thank you. I had a great moment a couple weeks ago. His teacher came running up to me when I was picking him up from school, and she said, today the kids had an assignment. They were supposed to write about their hero, and your son wrote about you. And I got to read it, and he wrote all about the history of Reopen San Diego. And to me, that's everything. Because as you know, our kids have really suffered in the past couple years. And he has come through so amazing. I do see these comments right here about concern about more draconian laws coming our way. I am hopeful, but I'm also realistic, and that's why I'm encouraging everybody to stay connected, to stay in the fight, because they got away with so much, and they were able to be reelected, and we have to hold the line, you guys. Micah, thank you. Yes, I know there are bad comments, and it's okay. One of the things is people take all of this energy to come up with these comments. You should see some of the emails I get. I just want to let you know something really interesting happened in the beginning when I started standing up for Reopen San Diego. People will say nasty things, and you feel it like a body blow. I do. I feel deeply, but it was really interesting when those insults would come my way and I could feel them. My next reaction was, I'm okay. I didn't die. You know, I would encourage you, because they're going to continue to use these tactics, that if you disagree with the government's response to COVID, about mandates, about how your kids should be educated, they're going to continue with the playbook. They're going to continue to call you racist, all these horrible names. And that's when a lot of people shut down, because being called a racist is like one of the worst things, right, that you can be called. And so a lot of people just kind of go into defense mode, and they're like, I'm not a racist, and they start listing all of the reasons why they're not a racist, as you should when you're not a racist. But here's the thing that we have to do when people want to say things like, well, you're racist for wanting to reopen schools. Huh? I reject your premise. I reject your premise. Oh, hey, look at this tree, you guys. Last night, this tree fell. All right. Oh, Morgan, thank you. You were a bright light in the darkness. Morgan, thank you for being the best campaign manager ever. What a ride. Reading some of the comments here. Let's continue to fight together. Thank you for all that you do. I feel the same way about you guys. Katie, thank you for your comment. I hope more people see this today. Keep up the fight, Mama. You're amazing. That's what we have to do. You guys, what choice do we have? We have to fight for our kids. Aw, Misha, you're a beautiful angel. Joseph, I know the results can be a little bit depressing, and that's okay. We need to process these feelings. I'll tell you another story about my older son. He's 23 now, and I remember we were driving. I think I was picking him up from school, and there was something on the radio talking about this lady was talking about what her mom always said to her, you know. And then she asked the audience, you know, what do you always say to your kids? So my son was sitting in the back, and we were at a stoplight, and I looked in my rearview mirror, and I could see him sitting there in the back, and I decided to ask him, what does your mom always say? And I kind of braced myself. I held on to the steering wheel like, oh my gosh, what is he going to tell me what I always say, right? And he looked up at me, and I'm looking in the rearview mirror, and he said, Mama, never give up. Never give up. That's what you always say. Reading some more of these comments. Thank you for your hard work, bravery, and inspiration. Thank you, you guys. This has been a group effort. Thank you, Scott. You're saying you gave it the good fight, and it's appreciated. Yes, my opponent did have some pretty big backers. I was on the news this past week, and I said if my opponent had a jacket where he had to wear his sponsors like patches on his body, it would be the Democrat National Committee, big unions, Planned Parenthood, spent a lot of money against me. Holy smokes. And Big Pharma. Big Pharma came into San Diego. So, you know what? Not an excuse. We ran with heart and hustle, and you know, I have no regrets. Thank you, Derek. You're amazing. Yeah, we just have to keep praying for our state. Thank you. All of these comments are beautiful and so appreciated. You know what? I'm gonna leave this live video up on my Instagram. If you feel like there's somebody that needs to hear this morning, will you please share it with them? And as my husband said, this is just the beginning. Take heart, everybody, and keep persevering. I love you all. Bye.